Hey there, Alex Kidman from finder.com.au with a hands-on review of the Oppo R11. Now they've only just announced this particular phone, so this is very, very early in my own testing of the phone. This is literally just hands-on stuff. Got to clarify that up front. Now the R series phones from Oppo are their flagship phones, but when Oppo talks flagship, it means something slightly different to the rest of the industry because Oppo still very much plays in that budget to mid-range space. This is not a $1,000 plus phone. That being said, it's designed in quite a nice way. Now they've gone for a kind of mix of their usual slightly iPhone looking device with a few neat individual touches. You get this rounded back of the phone so that the screen itself appears to float ever so slightly across the top of it. It's an interesting design point, gives you something to grip on, gives it a bit of visual difference. In terms of the underlying hardware, it's running on the Snapdragon 660. Now that's not the most powerful processor that Qualcomm make, or the most powerful in the market, but it's one that should have a reasonable level of power for the price that you're going to pay. That's accompanied by 4 gig of RAM and 64 gig of storage plus micro SD. So again, within that kind of space, it's a perfectly reasonable kind of contender, or at least it should be. The standout feature, and every mid-range phone needs a standout feature these days because budget phones are getting pretty good, and of course the premium phones tend to snaffle the best features, but the standout feature for the R11 is this dual camera array. Now, dual cameras are nothing new in the premium space where quite a few contenders offer them, but in the mid-range space, this is a pretty new kind of play for Oppo to make. What they've gone for is for 2x optical zoom. So you're looking at something that's closer to something like an iPhone than you are, say, the LG G6 with its wide angle, or Huawei's P10, which goes for a monochrome secondary lens. The optical zoom is pretty smooth, and I'll demonstrate that here with just a few shots of the Shenzhen skyline. As I say, this is very brief, early hands-on, so I haven't had a huge amount of time to test the optical zoom in real-world usage, but it appears to work perfectly well. And obviously, if you're shooting video or that kind of thing, you might want a tripod because you're going to get a fair amount of hand shutter with that kind of feature. In terms of charging and power, Oppo's own VOOC fast charging will be standard. Charging itself is just via micro USB. They haven't gone for USB-C, which is an interesting move because we are starting to see a few USB-C mid-range and budget handsets, but they've stuck with micro USB in this case. In terms of availability and pricing, there's not a strict Australian price set, but based on what it'll sell for in China, we should see it in the local market at around the $600 to $800 price point. That depends a little bit on GST and a few other factors in terms of exchange rates, but that's roughly where it should sit, roughly in the same kind of pricing as the R9S, maybe a little more. Availability, it should hit the Australian market in late July. That's what I'm being told at the moment. I've got to go off and do a bit more testing to do a full proper review of this particular phone, so stay tuned. Thanks for watching.